get this trigger. All right. Okay. This one's fun. I like this one. I had a lot of fun with this one as I was digging into it. I hope you guys find it helpful. So what we're doing tonight is we're building off of what we did last week. What we're going to do is really kind of not just target in on what new identity-based habits we want to build, but some good ways to build it. So I found some of these tips really helpful, and some of them they gave me a lot of clarity as to what I've already been doing in the things that I did successfully implement healthy habits on, but I didn't even think about it that way. So this is fun. I hope this is really clear for you guys tonight and helpful. So what we're going to do is work on 3 tips tonight on how to build healthy habits and how we're going to build off of what we did last week. I like what he said in the book Atomic Habits. He said, good habits make rational sense, but if they conflict with your identity, you will fail to put them into action. And so that's why we started there. If we start with putting in healthy habits and here's how to do them and stuff without changing the root habit or the root identity, like we talked about last week, it might not work out so well. So I think we've got a way better chance of having some better things happening here from the way that we're moving in this. So we started with identity. And then what we're going to do is we're going to reinforce that identity with repeated behaviors, because I don't remember, I think we talked about it, that identity, the word identity in the root Latin form is basically just repeated being. And so we're going to take that, what we're saying is what the identity that we are becoming. We're going to reinforce that with these repeated behaviors, which are going to become habits. They're going to be behaviors that take work, a little bit more work than maybe we're used to at first, but pretty soon they will become habits. And that's when, some people ask me, how do you do this? How is it so easy for you to do this with health or this or that? Because it's a habit now. So the cool thing is we can make these into new habits. And then what we do with this as we're moving forward is keep checking in with our identity, because what is going to happen is it's just going to keep building on itself. The process of building habits is actually the process of becoming yourself. And so we're always going to be checking back with our identity and looking at this. So what we're learning in this is just like this really great process that we'll just do for the rest of our lives. And so we're going to talk about like voting for your identity, because every action you take or don't take is a vote for the person you are or you wish to become. And habits will center around becoming that person of your identities. So the habits that we're going to be looking at, that you're going to start narrowing down on, are not going to be on habits that will get you something necessarily. That's not the goal. They will get you something, but the goal, remember we talked about last week, was on the identity of being, not on getting something. So as you're thinking about these habits, for instance, we might not think of like, well, this is a habit that's going to get me this money or something, or get me this weight. Those are not the identity qualities that we're necessarily going after. It would be, being that person who lives like that, or who has that, but not getting something. So just to kind of think about that as we're moving forward. What this does is there's a lot of time that we spend not realizing what we're doing when we have habits that we all have, and they just are automatic. When we start something, it always takes more time and more intentional time. And sometimes for people that makes us go, well, this is just taking a lot of time and I just don't have a lot of time for that. But as you're doing this, just kind of keep in mind, if it helps, that what you're doing is building habits that will actually make things quicker for you in the future. And so even though it takes a little bit of time now, it's going to give you more time in the future. That's just really how these work. And so if you think about things, I mean, there's a lot of things like that in life, right? Where you're just like, I just need to really take a lot more time on this, and then I'll have more time in the future for it. I mean, that's really what this business has done for me. Like this morning I had somebody over that I pay to cook some things, some bulk cooking foods once a week. And while she was bulk cooking, I was out playing on the trampoline with my kids. But when I was first building this business, I was spending a lot of time on it, including some of the time that I wish I would have been able to play with the kids, but it was just an investment. And so now I have way more time that I can play with them than I would have had I just kind of kept going. So it's kind of like that process when we're building habits. So it does take that new time, that, a little bit of extra time at first to build new habits, but just knowing that going forward, and then saying, this is an investment. Soon enough, it's going to actually free up time for me. So all that said, after we've worked on belief, the first step is not just starting a new habit. The first step is to creating good habits is to recognize or call out the bad ones. As he says in this book, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and we will call it fate. So the thing is that I know that sometimes when we're going to talk about this, and this might seem silly, but it's very effective and very important, because a lot of what we would call failures, or just maybe not really being our ideal self in performance and actions in the daily habits, is due to a lack of self-awareness. They're habits because we don't really think about them. And so there's not a lot of self-awareness going on when we have habits that aren't really casting a vote for who we're becoming. So self-awareness of what our current habits are is absolutely crucial, and is the number one step. There's a system called pointing and calling. They use it in some like transit systems, for instance, to improve performance in the workplace and different things like that. And basically what that is it's just calling out what you see verbally, just making it verbal. There's something that happens when you verbalize something. You are raising conscious awareness of it, because like I said, as you know, a habit is something you don't really think about. And so in order to bring it to the conscious part of our brain, we have to verbalize it. So what this would be is like, and I sent a link, I put a link in the group. If you missed it, it's atomichabits.com/scorecard, I think is what it is. And this is the habit scorecard. You can use it. You can just write stuff down on a piece of paper, whatever you find helpful. But also, so like you might just write down, just like I just like woke up, check my email, made a cup of tea, went and did this, and just kind of thinking about those things that are just so automatic. And when you're in the moment, so for instance, you could say, I'm eating a bagel and I don't know, a sugary drink, a sugary coffee or something. And you're saying it out loud. And then you're like, okay, does this cast a vote for becoming my healthier self? Obviously it doesn't. So when you call it out, there's something that happens in your brain, and it brings it to the conscious part of your brain, and it just helps change that habit more. It makes it so it's like not this automatic habit. The one thing that I would say though with this, I mean, we ask ourselves, does this behavior help me become the type of person I wish to be? Skipping over this actually keeps your subconscious determining your life and your identity. So this is where we take basically power over our lives and say, I am living a very conscious, intentional life here. One of the things that I would put a caveat out on this though is, I know for some of us, hearing that, we might take it like as our identity. And I want to make sure that we don't. So, and just because we make an unhealthy choice, or we have a habit that isn't really casting a vote for who we're becoming, It doesn't mean we're a bad person. It doesn't mean we're unhealthy. It doesn't mean we're lazy. It doesn't mean any of those things that we might have taken on as our identity. So I want this process to really hit right there too, and really support the identity that we're becoming, instead of letting those calling out those things make you revert back to that. So you can use it as an opportunity to say, calling those things out and saying, I'm not casting a vote for this person that I'm becoming, and redeclare that over and just restate that for yourself. This is who I am and this is who I'm becoming. When you've got that identity portion solidified for yourself, you can just take those moments where you call it out loud and say, this is what I'm doing right now. And this isn't helping me become this person that I am becoming. And so it gives you an opportunity, rather than to take it negatively against yourself and the former identity, the pieces that we have held on to that do not help us, that are not true about us. It gives us another opportunity to mash that down and to just kind of restate that identity, that true identity about ourselves. So that is one thing, is just bringing the subconscious, or the things we don't think about, to the conscious part. What happens is when we hear them out loud, it really makes the effects of it seem more real. Do you notice how the brain sometimes, if we're doing something, or we're like, I'm gonna double up on that, that I don't even know coffees, to be honest. I don't even drink coffee, but like, I don't know, a shot that's got sugar in it or something. Okay, we're gonna double up on it. I don't even know. But anyway, whenever we do something like that, we might just be like, I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to do it, because we know that if we think about it, we're going to think twice about it. So we kind of like shove it down when we're doing something, like, I'm not going to think about it. But that's exactly what we should do when we are moving to become that better version of ourselves. So now we move towards creating actions into habits that move us towards our identity. Did somebody? Yes? Okay. I'm going to check the chat too. Okay. All right. Yes. Just let me know if you guys have anything to go with that before I move on. So that first one is just calling out, bringing those old habits that we're gonna kick to the curb to become the better version of ourselves. And the second one is working on creating these new habits. So I have a couple of tips for you that I think might help. Okay, so number one, and this is something that works in a lot of areas of life where you're setting goals, or where you're really just anything, is really making sure that when you're not stating a new habit that you're going to develop, you're not making it subjective. So if you say, like, I'm going to eat healthier, that is so subjective and it doesn't work, right? Like, what does that mean? Does that mean you're going to skip out on that fast food that you have once a week? Does that mean you're going to knock down your carbs? Does that mean you're going to stop the extra sugar in this? It's so subjective that it's not conducive to success. Another thing is, like, we might say, I'm going to be more productive with my time. I'm going to post more on social media. I'm going to do more classes. These are too subjective to bring success. So when you're building a new habit, it needs specifics, okay? It needs to have specifics. So this is where we need clarity, because when people are like, I'm just not motivated, they just don't have clarity. So when you're thinking of this, I will do this. And now here's the cool thing. We're going to do what's called habit stacking. Habit stacking is when you assign a habit that you would like to develop to a habit that you already have. So for instance, instead of saying, I will be a better business builder, or I will grow my business better, I would say, maybe I will build okay, so for instance, you could just like have a general one. I will build my business by making 3 contacts at 3 p.m., 3 days a week at my desk. So it's a location, it's a behavior, it's a time, all 3 of those things. when we are doing habit stacking, we can assign it to another task or habit that we do. So for instance, I might say every time I sit down with my morning tea, I will write down the things I'm going to do for my business today. Or I will say maybe when I sit down with my morning tea, I will write down 3 things that I'm doing for my business today. Or I will write down 3 people that I'm reaching out to today. Or something like that. Something that we already do. Something that is just a natural part of our day. And we can know that by looking at that habit scorecard. And when you look at the habit scorecard and you look at these things, you can be like, hey, I can pair it with this. Because I know I do that. For instance, if I want to remember something, I might say, well, I'm going to associate it with this action that I do or this thing that we do each week. And then when we do that, it'll bring it up for me in my brain and I will think of it. So the same thing works when you do this habit stacking. So you can take this big, like just more overall, very objective thing. Like I said, like I will build my business by making 3 contact messages at 3 p.m., 3 days a week at my desk or something like that. You've got the behavior, you've got the time, location. Then you can break it down into smaller things or something. Or you can even just say like, I will make that a little bit more general. I will build my business by, like doing these 3 things. And I will do them how often? How will I do them weekly? Will I do them daily? Will I do them monthly? And then where will you do them? And then you can say, break it down and add it to those habits. So take those 3 things and say, this one I will do when I have my morning tea every single day. This one I will do on pizza nights with the family while we're sitting down watching a movie or something like that. So just throwing it into something you're already doing. When you do this, and the more you do this, what will happen is you'll start having more clarity on what daily tasks and activities that are going to move you in the right direction and what don't. So sometimes we might like, hey, I've got 5 minutes free time. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to do something for my business. And we might sit down and be like, okay, what was I going to do? Like, what should I do? And then before we know it, that time is gone. And we kind of look at it and like, well, maybe I didn't get as productive as I should have for that time. So when this happens, we start really just having more clarity on what we should be doing with our time and making better use of our time. So again, this is where it starts to build into having more time in the future. And then also what you might notice happen is that you'll find yourself saying no to things that you may have said yes to when you didn't have clarity. So if I'm like, oh yeah, I should probably get something done for work now. I haven't really done anything today. I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm looking at my stuff. And then I'm like, well, yeah, sure. Let's just turn on that show and let's watch that. But what happens when you do this is you start getting clarity and you start using your time more wisely. So we talked about habit stacking. That is tying a desired behavior into something that's already a habit. So there's a lot of really cool power in that. So if you can break down the things that the habits, the actions that are moving you into, what you're becoming, and then you take those, break them apart and tie them with your current habits, you'll have those really solid. And that's a really easy way to create a new habit. So that might be after I do this. It might be when I do this. It might be before I do this. In our house, we have a rule that before certain things, chores have to get done. So, for instance, before you get to have reading time at night, your room has to be cleaned up. Or before you get to sit down and have lunch or go make your lunch, you have to make sure that this, and this are done for school. So we use that a lot in our house. And it just kind of changes the expectations of like when they come and say, I'm going to just do this. It's like, well, did you do this? And so then it starts to become a habit. So that after I, when I, or before I, when I sit down to have my tea, I'm going to do this. Before I do this every day, I'm going to do this. Those are pretty powerful for that. And then let's see, what is this? Okay. Oh, this is my favorite one. So we're going to talk just lastly, what are we doing? How are we doing on time? Okay, we're doing good. Lastly, we're going to talk about making environmental shifts to support your new healthy habits. Environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. Do you ever like say, okay, so for instance, I'm gonna start um I'm gonna practice the keyboard more, or I'm going to practice the guitar more or something. If we put that in the closet and we have to take it out every time we're going to practice it, we're not going to be as likely to make it into a habit, right? When we got a salad bar in our kitchen, I know not everybody can do that, but I'm just saying, when we got it, we are eating salads way more often because it is so convenient to just go make a salad. It is so easy. So we want to create an environment, just maybe like a micro environment, that's going to help shape your behavior to who you're becoming. Stores know this, restaurants know this. They design their stores, they design their restaurants based on all of this because they know that the environment shapes a human behavior. So we can do this in our home. Let me think here. When we go get groceries, if I like wash off all the strawberries ahead of time and I chop up this ahead of time, we're so much more likely to use it before it goes bad than if we don't do that, right? So I want you to think about your workspace. I love that this came up shortly after Dawn Powers Marco Polo'd me and showed me her new, well, it's not her new office space, but it's like new because she went through and just like really organized things into ways that she can just easily grab them and then just go over here and print off her label for them to ship them out. And it's just like a system now, and it works beautifully. And she's so much more likely to do it now. And she's been doing it and it's been working for her. So the first thing is you need a good workspace. I know for me, when my nanny comes over like she did today, I'm like, all right, cool. Love seeing you. See you later. And I know that I can go to my desk and this is my workspace and I have the stuff here that I need to be effective. I've got my ring light tripod stand here and I've got all of this stuff right here to make it so that I can just literally sit down and go immediately to work. It's all right here. So whatever that looks like to you. And I know that if my desk is a mess and I can't even just like plop my laptop and a notebook down on it, I'm probably going to end up just like lounging somewhere else. And then I'm going to sit back and then I'm going to be like this. And so you need to give yourself, if you don't already have something, that environment. And it doesn't even have to be something big, just a space or whatever it is where you can find what you need to do accessible. If you need a little bulletin board to put up your list that you made when you had your morning tea or coffee or something, it's just like create a system for yourself. So yeah, that's going to take a little bit of time at first, but once you do that, you're going to find your time being way more productive and you'll get more stuff done. So we've got the environmental shift as well. All right. So that was the three things really quickly scattered around the house. So not helpful. I agree. Sometimes I'll bring my laptop out and sit on the couch and do stuff while whatever. And obviously that's totally okay. But I think just having that like home base for your work, right? You got a new printer, didn't you, Julie? Oh, new computer. That's right. Because it was your computer that was the problem, not the printer. Okay. So yeah. So, I mean, sometimes it's just little things like that really do shift things too. I mean, it's like, you don't have to wait for it to do this or to do that, or it's not working on this. So whatever that might be, that's totally within your possibilities and your budget and things like that. I mean, it doesn't mean like if you go spend, I have, like, for instance, somebody, I won't say who, somebody really close to me, thought that buying, like, I don't know how much our iMacs or whatever, anyway, like, I don't know, $2,000 laptop to start her business. And, it really wasn't in her budget, but she thought it would help her business do really well. And, obviously it didn't, because it's all up to the person that's using the laptop. And I'm like, I really don't think that's necessary. Like, I'm still using a $300 or $400 laptop for my business and and what I make and stuff. So I don't know that that's possible or that's needed, but she did it and it didn't really work out for her. So I'm not saying like you need to go spend a bunch of money and create something. It's just using what you have, making it in a way, and that's going to be different for everybody. Whatever is conducive for you to sit there and be productive. What do you need to have handy? What do you need to have like filed and quick to grab and things like that? So those are these are your 3 tasks for the week, is working on healthy habits. So you are going to become aware of the old habits that do not cast a vote for your identity, making sure that you're reminding yourself that that's not who you are, that's not your identity. Then you're going to think of new habits that will. You're going to nail those down very objectively. And then you're going to use those 2 things we talked about, habit stacking and environmental shifts, to help foster those amazing new habits that you're going to be having, that are going to be just habits soon. And then you're just going to be doing them automatically and your life is going to shift. So this is fun. So do you guys have any questions on any of that?
I don't have a question. I just have a comment.
Okay, awesome.
That it's okay that it doesn't happen like tomorrow.
Yes.
I'm learning it's okay to rest. It's okay to give yourself, chill time, I guess, and it goes back to that identity stuff. And if you're, I'm still working through some pretty hefty identity stuff and emotional stuff. And it's okay to have a whole day or a whole week, again, where I'm just, even if I'm just plugging away a little bit at a time, that's okay.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I think we have such a culture of push and go. And even though, yes, we need to do that, but we need to be intentional, but it doesn't have to be right away. We can follow the pace that's good for us, that's healthy for us. And that's, it may not be a pace that somebody else has, and that's okay. So that's just to encourage other people. I mean, that's where I am. I know I want to be exec. I want to be silver, but I know that it's more of a long haul because I want to be healthier when I get there. So I'm going to take the time to just put it into place so that it's real and that, it doesn't stress me out in the process.
Yes, that's true. I'm glad you said that. I hope that encourages other people too. And I think it will, because the goal of this isn't to like have these huge new instant habits. It's really a reframing of the mind, which takes time, and we want it to be sustainable, right?
Right.
So, I mean, like I developed healthy habits over a 12-year period. It literally was 12 years for me, from the time I read my first health book to the time that I really felt like we were like completely switched over in our diet and our home products and that wasn't even including mindset, like as much, so
right.
Yes, I agree very much. And that is really the goal of all of this, is to make it is just shifting habits so that it's not like it's like when you do that, you don't have to hustle. You don't have to work so hard. It just starts to become automatic. And I know that sometimes it feels like that's never going to become automatic. That's never going to become automatic. That's never going to become automatic, but it will. But yeah, that's the goal, is we're not going to do what other people are sometimes do and end up failing. And we're like, they just push super hard and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do it in 6 months and I'm going to, whatever. And then just, it might work, but it might also just completely fall apart after that point. So yes, this is about longevity and sustainability. Absolutely. Thank you for that, Julie. Anybody else? We're just kind of chilling tonight. So that's actually kind of where we leave this off. Now it's just all up in your hands, which is fine because this is a journey and you can keep going back to that all the time. We'll probably check back in with it next month But next week's training is on how I built a huge following. Not huge. It's not huge compared to what some people have nowadays. Back when I did it, it was huge. How I built that following and earned the trust of people online. And it's not going to be things that are like, here's what you can do to have a ton of people following you on social media. It's really about something bigger than that and something deeper than that. So that's what we're going to do next week. And then if you guys want to keep working on it, what we've done in these last 2 weeks has literally only been up until page 87 of this, how many page book? Like almost 300-page book. So that's like Julie was saying, like we're really just breaking things down into little bits to make them more sustainable. So when you're there and you're like, cool, I'm ready for more, you can get this. It's like free on Audible, right? Or something like that. So, but really, I mean, we've got enough to go for a while, so we are breaking it down. We're taking our time. And then if there's anything you want to just say like, hey, can you look at my identity that I'm working on? Can you look at the habits that I'm working on? Can you help me solidify them? You can absolutely throw those my way, and we can chat over Marco Polo or something like that, and see if there's anything to maybe like just really augment them better, supplement them, just kind of make them a little bit more fine-tuned or anything like that. I'm here for you guys for that if you need it, or if you have somebody else to go to for that, absolutely do that. I think that there's a lot right here in this to work on it. And yeah, so I hope that's enough. I hope that's a lot for you guys, but not too much. But it should give you something to work on, indefinitely. I would say, like Julie said, just take it as what it works for you. The most important thing is really just starting with that. What is my identity and my belief about myself? Who am I becoming? And going from there and just saying like, these are the healthy habits. These are the ones that maybe are not so healthy, and I'm going to work on those just by bringing awareness to them. I'm not saying like you have to go, hey, I'm not going to do that anymore. Just bring awareness to them and start there. So I hope that helps. I would love to see what you guys come up with in the next few weeks. If you want to let me in on any of it, that would be awesome. If not, that's totally fine. But anyway, so I hope that helps you guys. I think we're good unless anybody has any questions. We good? Okay, I'm going to stop the recording.